Hey man, what was your big wrestling that you liked when you were a kid growing up in Saginaw?
So I was born in 1986. I first watched wrestling the very first time when I was probably 4 or 5. I have an uncle, Robert, who was based in New Jersey, then Florida. So his wrestling territory was a little more NWA, WCW than Connecticut, WWE. So the first wrestling thing I ever saw was a Clash of the Champions when I was 4 or 5. And I vividly remember like Jushin Thunder Liger, El Gigante, Arn Anderson, just the imagery of like the fact that El Gigante looked like a giant, Jushin Thunder Liger looked like a cartoon to me, and then Arn Anderson just looked like somebody's angry dad.
Right?
It was just the mesh of all of those personalities in one contentious setting that captured my imagination. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's almost like dumping your bucket of toys on the ground. You just grab a dinosaur and a princess and a cowboy, and you're like ready to tell a story. And so I think that was what sucked me in. And then in the mid 90s, I just became obsessed. I'm talking every freaking toy I could. And keep in mind, these toys, these action figures, they only cost like $5. So even my parents who had like no money, when Christmas rolled around, I would get like 14 action figures, and it would only cost them like, $70 or whatever it was. Nice. So it was that obsession of that toy culture. And then in the mid 90s, I started to understand wrestling, at least from a creative aspect, where watching the 1, 2, 3 Kid and Brett or Razor, watching Pillman and Jushin open up Nitro, suddenly I saw that there was a craftsmanship to what I was watching. And it was the same with acting. It kind of happened concurrently. I was telling somebody else this on a podcast, I believe. I said, acting and wrestling, movies and wrestling for me happened on the same exact parallel track, where it started off like Doink the Clown and watching Ernest movies. It was very influential. And then it grew at the exact same chronology. So by the late 90s, during the Attitude Era, where everybody's obsessed, that's also the time that I understood Jack Nicholson and Daniel Day-Lewis. And it's like so in a weird way, they just always tracked at the same time. I always wanted to do both, but I wasn't athletically gifted, so I obviously just stuck with the acting thing. But yeah, man, I'm a WCW kid from a historical standpoint, but I always watch both. And if you look at my list of favorite dudes of all time, it reads like a hodgepodge,
Right. And like you mentioned Arn Anderson. And I remember reading something within the last few months about you wanting to play Arn Anderson in some kind of a biopic. Is that true?
Yeah, it's true. I really feel like I understand that cat, not personally, but just what he did in the business. It's really the Arn's lot in the wrestling life is not unlike my lot in acting. You're there to support. You have your own thing you do, but there's an unselfish nature about it, I think. And I find that really interesting and want to play it. Also, I have personal trainers and people I know who, if I'm currently probably 250, if I dropped another 45 pounds and then worked with somebody to sculpt and put on some form of muscle and covered myself in that hairy body, that Robin Williams hair that Arn Anderson has, I guarantee I could, if the script was any good, I could get nominated for playing Arn, because I would immerse myself in a weird, dedicated fashion. So I hope that happens. I think there could be a Ric Flair biopic with like Ryan Gosling or my buddy Sebastian Stan, and I could play.
Sebastian Stan, yeah.
Cool. Yeah. We'll see. I don't know. I would love to play a wrestler though in a movie. I really I could see myself doing a Mick Foley biopic too. Now Mick is 6'2". Obviously, I'm only 5'8.5", 5'9". But I think physically, comedically, even like I do have that weird tick where I was obsessed with the show Jackass. So like back in the day, like I climbed a 6-foot ladder and lit my arm on fire. No. What did I do? I climbed a 6-foot ladder in my buddy's backyard when I was 16 we lit a box on fire with gasoline, like a giant TV box. And I did a Macho Man elbow drop onto it. My arm caught on fire. I tried to put it out in the snow and singed my hair and the whole side of my head. But we would do stuff like that all the time. And even in my older age, if somebody gives me an action scene, I always tell the producers, I'm like, I'm doing my own stunts. I'm not, I know you have a guy here and that's cute. Yeah. I'm doing this. And 9 out of 10 times I get to do it.
When's the last time you did one? When's the last time you did like a fight scene type of situation?
I did a little stunt in Da 5 Bloods, the Spike Lee movie on Netflix. We were shooting in Thailand and the script says that my character ducks and covers. And I was like, if I'm gonna do the wussy thing and like not engage in any of the action, at least let me jump behind a boulder or something. So I told Spike Lee that, and he goes, "Can you clear it?" And I go, "Yeah." The boulder was only 3 feet off the ground, but it was also thick, and I had to clear it. And there's just brush and rocks on the other side. So they put a mat and covered it with brush. And in the movie, it's brief and it looks minuscule, but I dive over the rock. And I probably did that 5 or 6 times in a row and cleared it. And the stunt coordinator was happy. Spike was all giddy. Like, it was a really cool moment. And I think.
And you were fine afterwards?
Oh, I was fine. Yeah. I mean, I was a little sore, but I relish that stuff because, you know, it's on camera, just like wrestling.
Yeah. Yeah. There's something.
Get over it quick because your ego's like, I took it. I took the bump. I did the thing, you know.
That soreness, Paul, like, it was weird when I finally stopped being sore like all the time because it was like an old familiar friend. You know, it was just like I looked and it was, I don't know, there was something weirdly felt good about it. Like,
oh, I think some guys dig it. Like, I was there at what is that pay-per-view with the hardcore match? Was it Full Gear?
Extreme Rules?
Yeah, the exploding barbed wire death match one,
Revolution.
Right?
That's it. Revolution. Yeah.
Yeah, it was Revolution. Yeah.
I was there that night, and afterwards I went and, you know, hung out with some of the guys and gals backstage or whatever. And I saw Moxley, and he's, you know, he's kind of hovered over a table, really quiet, really stern, really earnest, and just kind of sipping some Jack Daniels and just kind of this brooding look. But in some way I looked at it and I was like, I think he likes this stuff. I think the pain afterwards is just part of it for him. I feel like he's one of those cats, you know. I don't know. Yeah. He seems like it.
I would imagine he made it this far doing this.